All right, good afternoon. Welcome back here to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. Market's moving right here, and did make a trade and ended up getting out of it. And yes, that'll ding as a day trade. It'll ding as a day trade in my account here for the challenge. And I can only have 3 of those in a week, so it's one of those where great, I'm going to take it if it's there, but that's not something you'll see normally here. But here's the live entry. Bought 9 at 102, sold 9 at 142 here on FCX and those call options. Now, just quick summary of the trade. Nothing too dramatic here, nothing too magical here in terms of this absolute technical element that come into play with it, but we talked about stocks and the positive divergences on the hourly charts, and this is one that has had a little bit of that with some of the momentum oscillators. Let me see if I can throw the MACD on this. But it's had some of that positive divergence. You can see in the MACD, while the stock hit a same low, we saw the positive divergence come in. And then today, stock gapped up and it rallied and then sold off, right? And so, okay, top band resistance, all right, natural. And it sold on off. And I wasn't really watching it all that much. And, I'm watching other things. Then all of a sudden I look and FCX has gone from down 20 cents to flat. And the market hadn't moved all that much. And I'm looking at that going, wait a minute, what's happening here? Something's a little bit different, a little bit odd with this price action. So when it recaptured the 7-hour, I said, you know what? I'm going to go for it. I can use the 7-hour as my stopping point, but I'm going to go for it with this action and buy it on up and see what happens. I didn't expect that we would see what happens, here immediately. If I had, I would have bought weekly options that expired on Friday, and I would have put more money into them. But, you can see right here, the CCI now is above 400, right? It's about as overbought as they come. And so I decided I'm going to take it off and move on. So, in and out of FCX, just a simple hourly trade. And, it's obviously been helped by the Fed Catalyst here over the last half hour. Now, what's going on here with the Fed? Well, Jerome Powell is speaking, and we've talked about the Fed changing their tone, and the Fed going from hawks to doves, right? What are hawks? Hawks are those that want to raise rates, tighten monetary policy. Doves are those that want to loosen monetary policy. You'll say, well, wait a minute. Look at Powell's comments. He never said that they're going to loosen monetary policy. He never said that they're going to, cut rates. And you're right. He didn't. But he also didn't have the same hawkish tone. He didn't have that same, yes, everything's great, grand, and wonderful, so we're going to raise rates. And this is now kind of the second time where we've seen Jerome Powell come with a more dovish tone. And so the market is seeing that more dovish tone, here from them, and having a little bit of hope that economically the Fed isn't going to throw the brakes on the economy. And so we're seeing that rally. Now, are bonds moving? Not really, right? I mean, here's the TLT. It's moved up a little bit, but it's not exactly making a monster move. It's pretty flat on the day, right? So this isn't the market pricing in and saying, well, the Fed's never going to raise rates again. This is the market saying, you know what? The Fed's finally starting to echo some of the concerns that we see out there. And, oh, okay, you know what? They're not going to be just hell-bent on raise no matter what. Okay, right? That's what the market's reacting to. That's what the market's going, okay, a little bit of relief. From a fund manager side, you look at it and go, okay, thank you. And, does some of it have to do with President Trump's comments? Obviously some will speculate that President Trump's outlash or bashing of Fed Chair Jerome Powell. He went as far as to say he regrets nominating him as the chair of the Fed. Which is probably the most political statement we've ever heard any U.S. president say about the Fed ever. The Fed is supposed to be an non-political entity. Hey, but anyway, that's what's going on. And so we see a sharp uptick in the market itself, and here the S&P futures. And pull them up, you can see this move right here, and kind of consolidating that move here in the last 20-25 minutes. Is this game changing? Well, one of my more bullish thesis on the market, has been the fact that I don't think the Fed is going to slam the brakes on this economy. And as the Fed starts to change their tone, the market is going to, react positively. Is this some evidence that that's happening? Yeah, right. I mean, this is some nice evidence, some great volumes here. Does it mean market's out of the wood? Does it, or anything like that? No, we're still coming off of an oversold bounce. This is still part of an oversold bounce in the market. We talked about the way or the fact that the S&P, could definitely bounce, from these lows, 70, 80, 90 points, right? Well, we have an 80-point bounce, right? This is an 80-point bounce in the S&P in 3 days. That's a pretty monster move. Does it feel like an 80-point bounce? Well, not really, right? It just like this drop didn't feel like a 100-point drop, right? They're not going to feel that way, but here we are, right back into this kind of midpoint of this correction. We haven't had the sky falling yet, and we'll still have U.S. President Trump and Chinese Premier meeting this weekend, and those things still happening. But you can see the positive divergence in the MACD on the market itself. Is pretty nice, but you also see how the market's quite a bit away from the 7-day moving average. It's rallied 80 points in 3 days, right? Does it have a pullback day on it or two? We see that very often. So I don't think this is a market where you look at it and say, oh, well, let's just go buy anything and everything right here and right now. It's still one you look at from a trade standpoint, and all right, I can go nibble here or get in here, get out here, and see where some of those setups are. A couple things, for me that I'm looking at, Pepsi's rallying here on this. We talked about Pepsi. If it breaks 115, I want puts. But I also talked that if it rallies, it could be something that I might be willing to buy puts on this rally. But I want to see some sort of top-down reversal, so maybe a little gap up and rally tomorrow and then a fade of that rally. That would be nice to see. But bottom line, I get an hourly chart that I like. I'll run with it. And right here, right now, I have a little bit overbought on the hourly chart, but that's about it. So I'm not, going to go rush after that right here and right now. As far as some things on the upside, things like FCX, right, which I like, and the daily chart's nice, but I can't go buy them when it's overbought to this nature in the short term. So we'll see those overboughts come down over the next couple hours. So this isn't going to be something where, they're just going to be like this into the close. I suspect, we'll see some of these overboughts, come down quite a bit. And the fact of the matter is I may end up getting back into FCX before the end of the day. But in all, I want to kind of see how things, how things trade here. U.S. Steel is one that I'm watching. And, this is, you say, well, if you want to be a bottom picker, go trade U.S. Steel. And, yeah, and the whole catch the falling knife and all of that stuff. But the reality is here with U.S. Steel, you see this sharp drop, and we have this fresh move back above the 7-hour moving average after a strong oversold condition on big volume. So to see a bounce here, MFI below 20. I mean, this is a very similar chart to what Apple was when I got into Apple. And I know I got shaken out of Apple yesterday, and, it's, So it kind of whipsaw shook me, and boom, off it's gone, getting up here to the 180, 178, 180 level. But you see it in the overbought. But U.S. Steel has that same element to the hourly that Apple did, just a couple days ago as I was looking to get into that. So U.S. Steel is one that's highly on my radar right here. Under Armour's moved too much. It's just moved too much here. I looked at Under Armour options when I went and made the FCX trade, but decided I would go with FCX. Both of them have moved about the same. The options have moved about the same. So, 6 to 1, half a dozen to another there. But U.S. Steel, AK Steel, really interesting story going on. CEO stepped in and bought a whole bunch of shares yesterday. Now, it was a ton of shares, but it was only $30,000 worth. So not sure how fantastic that is. But, these U.S. steel-related companies where the tariffs are really kind of eating at them, the Steel Dynamics, U.S. Steel, Nucor, if there's any sort of deal that's made this weekend, these things you could wake up Monday morning and see them up 10, 15, 20%, Monday morning. And I'm not exaggerating there. That is just a possibility if there is a deal that is made. So no deal has been made here just yet, but market definitely reacting positively to to this action with the Fed. Things like Caterpillar, this is a very nice move here on a Caterpillar, but still consolidating bands, and to see it pull back a buck or two is something that you really have to account for here overall. I do find Deere to be incredibly interesting. Sold off on their earnings, has been pretty much bought up ever since, and one that probably didn't deserve to be bought up on earnings, one where you can make an argument that the stock should be worth $220 fundamentally, and where if you look at some of the components of their business, right, market's fearful right now of a lot of things slowing. Well, when it comes to Deere, there's a lot of things that are actually accelerating, which is a very positive sign here for them. So anyway, we have little snapbacks and things like J&J, kind of moving here with the market. But, the Fed Catalyst, Jerome Powell Catalyst here. I'm in and out of FCX, and we'll be looking for the next trade setup here, here in as the rest of the day transpires. But it probably won't happen here in the next hour. I'll probably let some of this exuberance kind of wear off and see where things sit afterwards. Thanks for hopping on. Have yourselves a great one, and we'll talk to you later. Take care.